Hey everyone, James Labrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to or watching the podcast Talking Into Infinity with JT and Brian. Enjoy this. These guys are extremely informative. I love their dialogue. I love their interpretation of the songs, who and what we are, what we were going after. They're very accurate in their interpretations and descriptions, and I just think this is a great show, and these guys are doing a stand-up stellar job. So once again, enjoy Talking Into Infinity with JT and Brian.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Talking Into Infinity, a Dream Theater-centric podcast. I am your host, John. We are live on Facebook and YouTube. We are at those locations every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. If you are watching on YouTube, please do not forget to click the like button, click the subscribe, click, there we go. Awesome intro, buddy. Click the subscribe button and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. Real quick, funny story here before we bring Benedict Arnold on. So Brian and I are musicians, and I sing in a band. It's about 2 hours from where I live, about 3 hours from him. So he doesn't usually get a chance to come support me, but I go to support Brian when he plays in my area, or I've driven, an hour to go see him. There's been times I've been coming home from one of my gigs, so I've been doing about a 5-hour round trip drive, and I'll drive a little bit extra to go see Brian. So very supportive. Last week I was filling in for a band that was playing maybe 10 or 15 minutes from Brian's house. So perfect chance for him to come, hang out and support me, and wasn't very far away from him. And of course he didn't show up. And he didn't respond to my text message when I got to the venue, and waited until he knew we were about 15 minutes from being done. And then texted back, "Oh, sorry, man. I'm just so tired." So, without further ado, let's bring on this fucking prick. What do you got to say for yourself? Some friend you are.
Hey, John, is your audio working? I can't hear anything you said.
Oh, shut the hell up. No, that was... Yeah,
dude, so, I felt so bad, man. And it wasn't 15. It was like 15 months before you started, probably, wasn't it?
We played 7 to 10. We played 7 to 10.
Okay. You got, man, I'm jealous. 7 to 10. Now I really wish I would have gone.
It was fun. Yeah, dude, admittedly, like, I don't usually play out in this area, as you know. So, and you're like one of my only friends that lives out that far that would actually go see live music.
Well, it make me feel even worse now.
Well, dude, I was excited to see you. I was like, okay, cool. And so I texted you when we got there. I heard nothing. I was like, the dog waiting for his master to come home. I kept looking at the door, like seeing if you were the guy walking in, like. So,
God.
But yeah, I had to give you some shit.
Well, how was the crowd, man? I hope it was good.
It was fun, man. It was good. I mean, as you know, it was snowing a little bit.
Yeah.
It wasn't as bad. Yeah, it wasn't as bad as it was supposed to be, but it was a pretty good turnout. It was a small bar, so it was one of those intimate kind of, you're right in everybody's face kind of gigs, and I'm always a big fan of those. There's just something a little more just energetic about that sort of thing, and so it was a good time. But it was just a fill-in, but it was a lot of fun.
All right, next time you do it, I swear I'll be there, dude. I had gone skiing the day before, and I hadn't skied in 2 years, and I fell 5 times. All of them were getting off the ski lift. So I didn't have any major wipeouts, dude. But I mean, well, you've never skied before, have you?
No, I would kill myself.
Okay,
I would die.
Oh, let me take you next time. Then it sounds like fun.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So no, I mean, it's like, I used to have a ton of energy to think like, let's ski 8 hours, or let's keep adding, let's go for 3 days. And like, I think now it's like 4 or 5 hours. I'm done, man. So and it seriously wiped me out. And I felt horrible. Like if I had thought about it even like an hour before or something, I probably still would have gone. So I deeply apologize, sir. It was definitely not on purpose.
All good, man. All good. So before we get to tonight's topic, I do want to bring up a comment here real quick. Our good buddy Cam McLeish says, hey, I have literally just landed, as in I'm not even off the plane yet, in Sydney for show number 2. Love you guys. See you in 2 weeks. So we are very, very happy for our boy Kale, because he has finally gotten to see Dream Theater live. He's been waiting, I think, over 10 years, and he went last night, or was it the night before? I'm always screwed up considering it's literally all the way across the world. But yeah, props to Kale, man. Congratulations. Hope you had a fucking blast, dude. That's awesome. We're really happy for you because, you know,
I'm curious, Sydney, like that's got to be like a way bigger the show than like Cleveland or something. Is that going to be like a 10, 12,000 seater or something? Or
I think it's a little bigger. I mean, they're only playing a handful of dates there, so
yeah,
you know. But all right, so let's get into tonight's topic, man. This is cool. This is something that you scheduled, and I'm looking forward to this because not only is this like, you know, one of my favorite bands, but it's also a chance for you and I to kind of talk a little bit of shop in a way. I was telling the guys backstage before we started the show, you know, you and I don't get a lot of opportunity to have conversations with other musicians on the show, you know, much less ones that do it on a professional scale. So why don't you explain what we're doing here tonight, and then we'll bring our special guests on.
Well, tonight we have two good buddies. Actually, well, it's one good buddy of mine and another guy who's in the band. But how's that for an intro? No, my one of my good friends, Rich Hattery, roughly 3-4 years ago, we'll get the whole story, joined what's considered to be, I don't know if it's the biggest or one of the most popular Kiss tributes in the entire country, and I think even in the world, Mr. Speed. And I know Rich, who is the Paul Stanley, has had the band for a number of years, and I've read some of the stories, and I believe I've heard him on other podcasts and other interviews. And it's just a fascinating story every time I hear it. And I forgot half of it. And I think our listeners are absolutely going to love like everything these guys know about Kiss and the interworkings and of all the albums and the tours. And I know they have, you know, had some interactions with multiple band members. I just think it's going to be a lot of fun. And then kind of towards the end of all that, we're going to just sort of do some deep dive into some Ace Frehley, some of our favorite Ace Frehley tunes. And I think it's just going to be a blast, man.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun, but I do have to issue a warning.
Okay.
If you pronounce it Freely one more time, I'm going to boot you and do the interview myself. So you're digging on one of my pet peeves, man. But,
let's see how they produce it.
Exactly. If they say Freely, then we're good. So
okay.
Without further ado, this is your good friend Rich Hattery, otherwise known as Eric Carr. And we have Rich Kozak, otherwise known as Paul Stanley from Mr. Speed. What's up, guys? Thanks for coming on.
What up, dudes? What's up, fellas?
Not too much, man. This is, like I said earlier, this is going to be fun. I've seen you guys several times, and it's just an absolutely killer show. I know, actually, you were just in Strongsville, not too far from me, pretty recently, and you guys had a huge stage production in that place, which that had to have been an absolute bitch to get in and out of there. But yeah, so
not as big as we wanted it to be, but
nice.
Yeah, I've played that stage. It's a little size restrictive for what you guys generally do. So when I saw the show announced, I was like, how are they going to fit everything in there, man? Like, holy crud! So
real quick, settle it. Is it Freely or Frehley? Because I have no idea.
Rich
Frehley. Okay.
Frehley.
And it's not Neil Peart, right? It's Peart.
It's Peart.
Is that correct too? Okay,
yes.
Let's get those.
It's not pasty, it's peisty.
Oh, okay.
And
awesome.
it's Tama, not Tama. That's
correct.
Is that true? Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But think about it. I explain it to people this way. They're like, "No, it's not. No, it's not. It's Tama." I said, "Okay. Is it Yamaha?" Because all that is it's the same. You know, like it's not Yamaha, so it's Yamaha Tama. So anyway, all right, Brian. So start us off here.
Yeah, Rich. Let's go to Rich Kozak first of all. Take us back to the beginning of this whole journey and when you started this and what inspired it, and was it as simple as I saw Kiss and heard Kiss and I want to do this, or how did this whole thing begin?
Well, way back in 1993, I used to frequent a lot of vinyl record shows in the city of Pittsburgh, which is where I'm from. And I would go with a buddy of mine, and it was pretty much, instead of going to church, we went to these record shows, you know, once a month, once every, 2 months. One Sunday, I happened to bump into a guy who was reading a Kiss book at a particular vendor's table. And I made a comment over his shoulder. It turns out the guy was a guitar player, big Kiss fan. We had exchanged phone numbers that day. And before we left, we had set up a time to get together. He was a much better guitar player than I was at the time. We started meeting at his house on the east side of Pittsburgh, just getting together, learning Kiss songs. And Mr. Speed was never supposed to be what it is today. It was never supposed to be a band, let alone a Kiss tribute band. It was really supposed to only be two guys playing guitars onto a cassette tape. And maybe a lot of your listeners don't even know what a cassette tape is, but literally pressing that black button with a little red thing that says record,
Right.
and two guys playing the guitar parts. That was it. No vocals, no drums, no bass. That was it. And here we are almost 32 years later. Some people think we're pretty good at what we do. We're unique in our own way. We have a stage show that's unrivaled by any other Kiss tribute band on the planet. We take we put a lot of care and a lot of attention into everything from our website to our marketing, to our merchandising, to our gear, to our costuming, to our makeup. Everything is done to the best of our ability. And I think it should be noted too, that in almost 32 years, we have never had an endorsement deal or a sponsorship. Everything has been done out of our own pockets. So I always like to make the comment from the stage. Most bands don't last 32 days, let alone 32 years. And you guys play music as well, so you can probably relate to that in some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So
go ahead, John.
Real quick question about you mentioned that no endorsements or anything, but did I not see at one point that you actually did kind of get the seal of approval from Kiss themselves?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Someone told me that, but I was like, I don't know if they've ever done that before.
There's a lot of Kiss bands that like to run around and blurt shit out that is not true. And one of the biggest myths is that any Kiss tribute band on the planet that claims that they are officially endorsed by Kiss is lying to your face. Okay. None of them are. I don't care who they are. Kiss is still an entity in and of itself. And so as long as they are still performing and still together, they're Kiss. We're all just standing in the shadows, doing our thing.
Sure. So Rich, how did you become a part of this? Because, as Brian said, you've been in for a few years now. And personally, I think it's pretty cool that you're doing the Eric Carr character. It's not like we're going, from another Peter, kind of like a replacement thing. So that's pretty cool that you chose Eric. So how did you end up, becoming a member of the band?
So when Quentin, the drummer before me, had announced that he was going to be leaving, Rich Kosak reached out to a friend of his, who reached out to a friend of mine. And then, that person told him, you should really talk to Rich Hattery. He's the biggest Kiss fan I know. He's a good drummer. See if he's interested. So that's really where it came from. I didn't know Rich Kosak personally before that. I had seen Mr. Speed many times, of course, because I've been a Mr. Speed fan ever since I knew who they were. I used to actually take our 4 kids to their shows. I'd paint their faces as each character, and people would stop them and take pictures and stuff, call them the Kiss Kids. So it's kind of a full circle, pretty cool moment when I ended up actually being in the band.
Why don't you tell them the real story? Tell them what you said whenever you got my email and Angie told you that, you should answer that email.
Well, yeah. So I get this message from Rich Kosak. I was in a meeting actually at work, and my phone's bloop, and I looked down. It's, I couldn't see what the message was, but I saw it was from Rich Kosak, and I'm like, Rich Kosak, that's the Mr. Speed guy. What the heck is he contacting me for? And then it kind of dawned on me as I'm saying, there's really only one reason that Rich Kosak would be contacting me. It's not like we know each other already. So yeah, I told my wife, and she goes, well, you have to check into that. So
yeah.
Tell us about that. Tell them about that kit you were telling me about that you found online that is did you say it's similar to what Peter Criss used in '79 or something? Go ahead and just talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so initially, at first, I thought that I was going to be Peter. Like in the very beginning, that's kind of what we had decided, but it didn't take long, and we gravitated towards, we're going to go with the Eric Carr idea. But I had already started securing a drum set that was a Pearl drum kit. It was actually just very, very similar to Peter's, but it was located in the Netherlands. So, I was scouring online, trying to find the different pieces that I would need. And I came across this, and, I was like, okay, I pulled the trigger. That got me like maybe 75% of the kit. And then I needed to add some more pieces. So that's the first kit that I played with Mr. Speed for the first 2 years. And then, I started down the course of trying to find what Eric actually played, which is actually much more difficult. There's just not as many, old vintage Ludwig kits out there that are in good shape. So I didn't have to acquire any of that from the Netherlands, though. I will say that it all came from the United States, but across like 6 or 7 different states. I mean, I was just scouring Facebook Marketplace, eBay, and Guitar Center, the used gear that they have all over the country. I mean, that's literally how I pieced together the kit that I'm playing right now, which is, to my knowledge, as close to an Eric Carr kit like he played in 1980 that I know of.
So real quick, sorry, John, even though I said go, what was the decision? You said you kind of decided to go Eric Carr. What pushed it that way for you and for Rich? Was that a mutual thing, or you just thought it'd be more unique, or how did that all work out?
Yeah, I'd say it was kind of mutual. Rich,
it was very mutual
decision. Go ahead.
It was very mutual between the two of us, and I think at that point when Rich's predecessor left the band, we'd had 28 years of paying tribute to Peter Criss, and I had enough, and I just thought we wanted to make a change, and looking at Rich, when you look at him on the screen here, he doesn't look like Eric Carr. But when he puts the makeup on and he puts his wig on, and, we do it to the level, as I said earlier, that we try to do it to, he looks an awful lot like that guy. And, so it was very convincing. I do have photos of the first time he ever put his makeup on. So if you guys ever want to bribe him, I got the goods.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you had to piece that kit together like piece by piece. Did you find did you actually find like a 5-piece, or was it like, okay, I've got the bass drum here, I got like the mid tom here, floor tom there? Like,
it's pretty much exactly like that. So in some cases I was able to find a bass drum and maybe 2 toms and a floor tom, or I would just find a couple toms, but I already had one of the sizes of that tom, but I'd still have to buy the whole kit. So I actually have extra pieces that I wasn't able to use because they're actually duplicates.
Right.
But that kit that Eric played is kind of unique because they're Ludwig power toms. So they're actually bigger, they're deeper than a normal Ludwig tom from that time frame.
Yeah.
They're also concert toms, which means they don't have a bottom head. And then the third thing is they have a little silver metal ring around the bottom. Okay, so those 3 things made it. So you're laughing at me because he's laughing because I'm just talking drums. But
no. I love having Rich in the band for multiple reasons, and one of the main reasons that our band works and the culture within our band is the healthiest it's ever been, is because of the passion that he has for his instrument.
Yeah.
And, I've had a lot of guys come and go through this band that didn't give a shit about their gear. I know a lot of musicians out there and other KISS bands that don't play anything that even sniffs around the garbage can of what a Peter Criss kit looks like, let alone taking it to the level that he took his kit with the Eric Carr kit, and building the ventilation system in his garage that looked like a scene out of E.T. It was ridiculous. But But I also sat there with a smirk on my face when I would see his posts on social media where he was, giving people a glimpse into his inner workings of how he was putting this whole kit together. And that's what separates Mr. Speed from everybody else.
See, and that kind of leads into my next question. So, as I mentioned, like Brian and I play, we're like, the kind of weekend warrior guys and everything. And, I sing in a cover band. We do all genres. And as you guys are aware, if you go into the comments section of musician posts, you'll hear a lot of people saying, well, cover musicians aren't real musicians. They're just anybody can play anybody else's music, But that's obviously not the case, because there's a difference between playing root chords and playing the song correctly. But for you guys, it's even to a whole nother level, because you not only have to play the songs accurately, but you have to do them note for note, because you're playing to a fan base of a band that is so unbelievably fervent and passionate that they're going to know every note. Like I always compare it to, like, I'm a huge Van Halen guy. And as much as I try not to, when I go see a Van Halen tribute band, in the back of my mind, I'm going, nope, that's not the chord right there. Nope, the solo went up 2 more frets. Nope, the fans are like that. So talk a little bit about how difficult it really is to be that accurate and to be under that microscope.
Well, you're absolutely right. And we have our ass handed to us after every single show for a multitude of reasons. But what I've always tried to instill in my bandmates is, when the fans close their eyes, I want it to sound like the record. And when they open their eyes, I want it to remind them of something that they've seen in their life that is a vision of Kiss, whether it was on TV, in a magazine, a poster on their brother's wall when they were growing up, something. Because let's call it what it is. We're not them. Okay, we're not. Physically, we don't have the same attributes. Rich is much taller than Eric Carr was ever going to hope to be in real life. But, and Paul Stanley's got, his features are much larger than mine. And I get more that I look like Peter Criss than I do Paul Stanley, but it's just because of the hair and the tinted glasses. But it is very, very important, and has always been since day one, that the music stand up. And I do have our very first show on audio tape. And there also is a VHS videotape from our first show, June 24th of 94. One thing you cannot say is that we didn't play well. Maybe we looked like shit, but we didn't play well. I mean, we played really well that night. A little fast, but the music is always important. And, there's little things like, we used to do a song called Shandy off of Unmasked. And I would have the biggest smile on my face when Rich did Anton's drum fill at the end of the song. There's 4 hits on the hi-hat as he's doing a roll down the toms. And for me, being the leader of the band and the Paul in the band, I'm geeking out on stage, and I have to play to the people, but I'm having fun because he's going behind me, and that's the cool thing about playing it the right way. So those of us who really live and breathe the music, and it makes us feel comfortable and strong and secure, we want it played the right way, to the best of the musician's ability. Because again, I'm not Paul. I don't have hands like him. I don't have vocal cords like him, but I do the best that I can from my heart.
And how about you, Rich? I mean, you're coming into this established, this major established act, and, you've really got to kind of bring the goods. So again, question goes to you too. Like, how much pressure did you feel to be like, okay, I have to absolutely nail this? And especially for you, you're doing 2 different styles, because Peter Criss was much more of like a jazz influence, and he was not a heavy hitter. And then you got Eric Carr, who's like the, just that power classic, just smashing the drums. Like, so how was that for you, and how is it to juggle those different styles?
Right on. Good question there, because you're right. Growing up, listening to all of the, the songs prior to Eric, and the way that Peter played them, on Alive and Alive 2. I mean, those are the things that are resonant in your head. And then, of course, Eric played a number of those songs but he played them differently. I think they kind of gave him some liberty. So I actually poured through on YouTube, the shows from Sydney, Australia, and other places that they played that they happened to capture on YouTube. And I tried to learn the songs the way that Eric did them. I was pretty meticulous about making sure that I play, he plays Calling Dr. Love differently than Peter did. So I had to kind of unhear how Peter did it and do it how Eric did it. Detroit Rock City, that one we all are pretty familiar with because, it was on Kiss Exposed. So that was one that I knew right away. He does that double bass part. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Anything that Eric played that's an old song, I do it the Eric way. Now, there are some songs we do that are older songs that there really is no version that I've ever found of Eric doing it, like Watching You, for instance. Peter did that. Eric Singer did that. I don't know that I've ever heard Eric Carr do that, at least not that I've ever found. So when it's something like that, I kind of will do a hybrid either between Peter and Eric Singer. But I tried very hard to stay true to playing the parts the way Eric Carr played them, for the sake of, like what Rich said, because we try to be as authentic as possible.
Sure.
So kind of a 3-part question here for Rich Kosak. So when Hattery came over to try out, how long before he started playing were you just like, okay, this is the guy, number one? Number two, did he sing that night? Because I was in the band with the guy for 2 years, never sang a note to my knowledge. We could have used that powerhouse voice that's on Black Diamond. And the third question here is, give us like a couple just examples of guys who tried out and you were just like, oh, good Lord. Just, give us some horror stories too.
Oh boy.
Okay. So the question, A, 10 minutes, B, no, he did not sing. And C, you want horror stories of people throughout my 32 years that have come through the door?
Yeah, or just like an audition, like, oh, somebody said this is the guy, and then you get him over there, and how some of those might have went, or just some.
Oh
some
yeah,
gigs,
well, we had a guy.
Yeah.
we had a guy back in 2001, late 2001, from the east side of Cleveland, who answered our ad in Scene magazine, not even owning a drum kit. So when I called this knucklehead, he went to Guitar Center in Mayfield and bought a drum kit.
Wow.
Now he did, I think the kit that he bought was something like, it was burgundy or red or something. And that's what he wanted to use in the band. But whenever we showed up at his house to audition him, because you have to go where the drummer lives, it's not like they're going to haul all their shit to your place.
Right.
And over the years, we have had some rehearsal spaces, but it's been a minute since we've had that. We went to this guy's house and we see the drum kit and we say, you got to change that. That's not going to work, And even back then in 2000, we were still trudging through mud with who it was we were trying to be, because when I started this band in 94, there was no plan. There was no book. There was no anything like that. So he's the first guy that comes to my mind. And he was such a putz that he would leave his makeup on after every single show because he wanted people to know that he was the drummer in the band. If he took his makeup off, no one would know who he was.
Right.
We've had a couple people like that throughout the history of the band that just, they love the celebrity of it. They, way more than they love the integrity of it. I had a left-handed drummer in the band going back to the late 90s. That didn't work out so well either, but it's not like you have a Kiss store at the end of the street and you can walk down, when you get home from work and go, do you happen to have any drummers today? I need one. It doesn't work that way. So I learned early on to work with what I had. I've had members of my band whose weight limit exceeded that of spandex.
Wait, well, that's everyone at our age, isn't it now?
Well, speak for yourself. I work really hard. I know Rich works really hard at staying, relatively in decent shape. Because
so does John, so I can relate.
Shut the fuck up, Brian.
The fans are coming to see the closest representation of what they know Kiss to be.
Right.
And it's really, it's challenging for us. I can't speak for a lot of guys in Kiss tribute bands or Kiss style bands, as I like to call them, around the world. But in this band, it's super important for us to be in shape and to look good in the outfits, because people are paying hard-earned money to come and see our band, and we owe that to them. Plus, we owe it to ourselves. I'm not going to go out there and look like a bag of shit. So I want to put my best foot forward. So I know I kind of segued away from your original question, but it took me about 10 minutes of watching Rich play his drums in his basement with the makeup on and a wig.
Oh, wow.
But once I saw him, I knew enough to know that it was going to work, because we know what works for Mr. Speed. So Rich was something that was coming in, that was fresh, it was exciting, and we were all about it. So it has never looked back. And I want to go back to a previous question and add something to it. We have never had anybody tell us that Rich cannot play the drums. He gets more compliments from Facebook posts. We always do posts after our shows. We'll put some photos up, a little recap of the show, what have you. Rich has always given the band his best effort. And, I'm in this 32 years, but I'll tell you, every single time he plays his drum solo, I'm watching. And that should tell you something.
I don't want to contradict you, but like I turned around your story's different. I turned around one day and he was in our band, and it took 2 years to get rid of the guy. I had a totally different experience. I saw around like, who's this guy playing drums?
He hasn't shit to be in my band yet, so I'm going to keep riding that horse until he does.
No, but real quick, and then I want John to go. But okay, so the singing, when did that come? And did you, Rich, did you go to him and say, hey man, I really want to do Black Diamond, or how did that all come about?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I'm sorry, Rich. I don't mean to cut you. I'll let you answer for yourself. But my bandmates trust me. If you do not have that trust from the leader of the band will never succeed. He was very transparent with me and said that he had not done a lot of singing and didn't really consider himself to be a singer. But I was not going to deny him that chance to get better and to do what he deserves to do within the context of the band.
Yeah, no, he was dying. I mean, we looked at each other, and I'm like, wait, is Rich singing Black Diamond? Like, is he like? I'm not saying he kept it from me as a secret or anything, but it's like it was the last thing I thought of, and it just all of a sudden, man, this booming, just powerful voice, just like rocking the whole Geauga Theater over there. It was amazing, man. I mean, it sounds like I'm joking, but John, if you were there, you would have. I mean, he just sounded dead on, man. I mean,
right.
Your drumming didn't suffer at all. You're still putting on the amazing show while you're like, and that's not an easy song to sing. Let's be real here. I mean, you just absolutely nailed it. The feel, the emotion of it sounded so good, man. And I was just so happy for you. I thought it sounded great.
That is super kind of you, and I appreciate it. Look, man, up until I was in Mr. Speed, there were two people that told me I was a good singer. That was my mom and my grandma. And maybe Tim Morgan once or twice, but yeah, he said, we have Black Diamond in our set. How do you feel about that? And that was actually came through in a text, and I was kind of terrified. I'm like, because Peter, the way that Peter sang it is, if you're going to try to recreate what Peter did, that's pretty tough,
right?
But what I said was I'm just going to listen to various versions of it. I'm going to steal some stuff from Eric Singer, from Eric Carr, and I think I can figure out a way to make it work. And I think it worked out okay.
It worked out great. It worked out great, and we're bringing it back this year in our set list for our 2026 tour. It's coming back.
Nice.
And that's another thing too, because you have to understand something in the tribute world. you have kids coming to see us that are 6, and you have people that are 66. Okay. We have to appeal to that whole demographic through all those decades. So if Rich melds together Peter, Eric Singer, and Eric Carr, the band can only be better because of that, because he's going to tap into all these different people out there in the crowd that are going to get off on the fact that he sounds like he's supposed to sound.
So how soon after you nailed Black Diamond did they say, "Oh, hard luck, woman. Here comes Matt. Here comes."
That hasn't happened as of yet.
There you go. Well, there you go, Rich. There you go, Rich. Now you got some stuff to throw at him. There you go. So something that kind of is interesting to me is that you mentioned that, the first show was June of 94. So if I'm remembering the timeline correctly, had they announced that reunion tour at that time, or was that very shortly after? Because I know that first tour was like 95, 96.
They had not announced the reunion tour. Actually, they hadn't even done Unplugged yet on MTV.
Okay. So you get the idea. You're like, hey, I'm going to do a Kiss tribute band. You're just getting together with your buddies and playing Kiss songs. What sort of influence did the announcement of that tour have on what you decided to do? Because, I mean, that is like right on the back end of it. You're like, hey, we're going to do this band. And all of a sudden, hey, the real Kiss is coming back. And you're like, holy shit. Like, did you use that as like, promotional material almost? Like, hey, if you can't see Kiss, come see us, like kind of thing? Or did that have any influence at all? Or
yeah, it had less than 1% influence on what we were trying to do. I happened to be working for Universal Music at the time.
Okay.
So I had an in with a couple record chains in the city of Pittsburgh. So we would do some spot promotions when the reunion tour was rolling through Pittsburgh. For instance, we did an in-store appearance downtown at 12 o'clock on one particular day where fans could come and get their pictures taken with us. And then they could enter to win an autographed guitar by the band.
Okay.
And so things like that we tapped into. But for the most part, Kiss's career and reuniting the original lineup at that particular time had nothing to do with us, because we were scared shitless about what we were doing. I mean, the first year of our band, we went out in suits like the cover of Dress to Kill. Because you have to remember at that time, there was no internet. There was no Kiss costume company here. There was no makeup company there. We had to go to magic shops to buy our makeup. We had to go to Goodwill stores to buy our suits that we thought looked like what they were wearing on the front cover. And then after that first year, when we got balls the size of Texas and we said, hey, let's make some costumes, because you couldn't just buy Kiss costumes in 1995.
Yeah.
It wasn't available. So again, you went to a thrift store and you bought a tuxedo coat with tails. And then you went to a hobby store and you bought all the little cheap rhinestones that didn't really sparkle, and once you put glue on them, they sparkled even less. So it was such a learning thing. I mean, Rich and I could tell you horror stories about Swarovski rhinestones and how much they cost. And when one falls off in your car, you want that rhinestone, because this shit is expensive. I mean, for me to put my costume on is about $8,000.
Jesus. Wow.
And I can't even speak to Rich's investment, Mark's investment, or Shane's investment, but just me. And then when you put the guitar over my back, I'm $13,000 walking out on stage.
Yeah. See,
there's a lot of bands don't have $13,000 in gear total.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're not wrong. I'm lucky. Like, the guys I play with are total gearheads. And so I know, they're always on Reverb and like, oh, check this out. I got it for only $1,700, and, you mentioned like, Rich being a total, like gearhead with his drums and stuff like that. Like, we got a new bass player. He's been in for a few years now, but that guy, I mean, the amount of money he spends on his stuff is unreal. And I think, and I know to your point, I think that's one thing that people don't really understand about tribute bands, especially on the level that you guys are at, and especially a Kiss tribute is how much money is going into this. You know, I mean, it's exorbitant. Like you said, you alone are 13 grand. And then Rich, I mean, your drum kit was piece by piece. And I mean, the shipping costs factored in. I mean, the drum kit's got it. How much was the drum kit there? It's like, you know, you're talking about several $1,000s there. So,
yeah, I mean, just the kit. This doesn't include cymbals or stands. Just the kit. When I pieced it together and painted it, I was between $6,000 and $7,000.
Wow.
Man, people
again,
just
that's no hardware, that's no drum, that's no bass drum pedals, that's no cymbals. Which again, that's another thing about Eric, that I've always been a Peisty guy. I've always played Peisty cymbals. I love Peisty cymbals. So luckily, I already had mostly Peisty cymbals, but I added more and nicer ones, so that they look good. But yeah, it's not cheap.
So you guys mentioned, you know, you're doing a tour this year. So like, you know, for people that don't know, I mean, you guys aren't really just reaching. How far out do you guys get when you're doing this, and how many shows does a tour, you know, entail for you guys? And, you know, talk a little bit about like how far reaching the band has gotten.
Well, I can tell you this, and this is something that I really pride myself on. We have fans all around the world. So occasionally I will get a printout from our previous webmaster, and he can tell me where we're getting hits on our website from. I can tell you where we get emails from people from. We were actually supposed to just be returning home from Czechia. We were supposed to do 3 shows over there at the end of January, but they fell through.
Wow.
They honestly fell through 2 of the shows because of poor ticket sales. We were supposed to start the 3 shows in Prague, which was selling really well, but the other 2 shows didn't hold up. We've had a lot of people sniffing around our door from Australia. We get a lot of interest from Canada, but they don't understand what an undertaking it is to take something like this across the border, especially in the times that we're all living in this world. It's not like you can just drive the van to the border patrol and say, "Yo, dude, we're going to Toronto, you know, to play." It doesn't work that way. So fans always want us to go and play. It's funny when we always mention a show. Hey, we're playing in, you know, Rancho Mirage, California. Hey, can you guys come to Jacksonville, Florida? Yeah, we'd love to. But it's not like we can show up uninvited. So speaking to that point, the next show we have, our first show this year, is March 21st in Rancho Mirage at the Agua Caliente Casino. And this is a fabulous room. Most bands would give their left nut to play a place like this. And we're like kids in a candy store because we get to take our entire stage production out there, our whole stage set, all of it, and they're paying for the entire show to come out, which is great. And John, I want to rewind back to what we did at the local in December.
Sure.
We didn't play on their little pool table stage.
Yeah.
They brought in a big stage, a 40 by 20 stage that was 3 feet high, just for us to play. And now some other local bands have caught on to that hysteria, and they're wanting the same thing. You know, we want what Mr. Speed had. You know, it's kind of funny, but it's a good attaboy too, because we're not trying to be better than the next band. We're just trying to be better than we were yesterday. Mm-hmm. You know, and if we can help other bands to get better in the process, then, you know, good on you. But we will go wherever the money is, because we're not cheap. And I'm proud of that. We've worked really hard to get to where we are. And we only pick up our car keys for a certain amount of money.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that makes complete and total sense. I mean, you know, Brian's that way, I'm that way. It's, you know, you reach a certain level and it's like there's a certain price point. I mean, you get what you pay for, really, is what it comes down to. And
you know, my guys are relying on me to take care of them. You know, they're leaving their jobs, they're leaving their homes, their families to be on the road for my rock and roll dream. You know, so I make sure that they've got a nice bed to sleep in. I make sure that they're fed. I make sure that they go home with a nice payday. And they get to see a little bit of the country in the process and get some experiences out of it. You know, a lot of guys in the city of Cleveland, no disrespect to anybody, you guys want to be the biggest thing here, God bless you. But there's a really big world out there, and Mr. Speed wants to go be a part of it. And that's how we dream. You know,
that's amazing. Yeah, it's like it's so funny because like my guys are always, you know, I my band's based in Lima, which is, you know, if you're not familiar, it's about 2 hours west of here, but it's like very rural. And out there, it's like, you know, it's not like Cleveland. I always tell them, like, they're like, why can't you get us in Cleveland? I'm like, well, dude, if there's like 10 bands in Lima, there's 100 in Cleveland.
yeah.
And, you know, unless you're going to draw, you're not going to get the bookings. And so to your point, yeah, like you got to bring the goods, man. Like, and it's awesome to play out that far and everything. And to your comment about the stage, you know, it's interesting to me that these other bands are like, well, you got to get us a stage. It's like, well, but wait a minute. Like, if you're bringing in a Kiss tribute, you kind of have to have that stage. That's part of it. You know, Kiss is not just, you know, as you guys well know and everybody knows, it's not just about the tunes. Like, Kiss is about the experience of it all. You know, I mean, my mom, like, funny story, like when they were doing the reunion tour, the first one, my mom, you know, she got, at the time she was what, like 53 or 54, I want to say. And I asked her, I said, what do you want for your birthday? She says, I want Kiss tickets. I said, excuse me? And she's like, yeah, I want to see the fire and explosions. And I was like, fuck yeah, mother, we're going to Kiss. So, you know, for her, you know, it was cool. And it was like, to me, that experience was such a microcosm of what Kiss is. And it kind of, you know, it'll lead me to my next question, but, you know, so we went to see Kiss, and then she wanted to go again on the Psycho Circus tour. And she's sitting next to me, and she was all about the show because, you know, but she wasn't familiar with the songs. You know, she was into the experience, and she likes rock and roll. But all of a sudden, I hear her second song of the night and go, So barely knowing it, she's already getting the melody. And I mean, it was like, and to me, I'm like, this is what Kiss is all about. Like, yeah, it's a spectacle, but it is like hooks for days that just stick to the roof of your mouth like peanut butter. And so, you know, my next question for you guys would be, you know, kind of going way back to the beginning for both of you guys. Like, you know, this is a question for both of you to answer. What initially attracted you to Kiss? Like, what made you such enormous Kiss fans?
Go ahead, Rich.
So let's see. For me, my oldest sister, who's 14 years my elder, okay, she her boyfriend came to the house and he brought Kiss Alive 2, the gatefold.
Yep.
I was 6 or 7 years old, something like that, and you know, I was just blown away by the visual. You know, I played the record. I actually still have that record. It's behind me, and it is pretty mutilated at this point, but luckily I have lots of nice copies as well. But yeah, I was just blown away by Kiss Alive 2, and that was really what got me my start, you know, and obviously the makeup and the characters and all of that. You know, Star Wars was big around that time frame. So I really gravitated to Ace Frehley, because I'm like, oh, this space dude, this is cool. You know, I'd have him fight my Star Wars characters and stuff, because I got the doll for my 8th birthday. So, awesome. So yeah, just all that. Rich.
Yeah, for me, it was the Paul Lynde Halloween special.
Oh God.
Yeah. That was the first time I had seen them. Then I saw them on the American Music Awards not long after that. Mm-hmm. Then a family moved onto the block where I grew up, and they had a young boy who had gone to see Kiss. So as we ran through the neighborhood, you know, this band name came up, and he's like, yeah, let's go hang out in my room. So I go over to his house, and up on the 3rd floor on his closet door was the U.S. tour poster with Peter with the bloody bandana and the drum.
Oh, yeah.
And I piece everything together. I pieced Paul Lynde. I piece the American Music Awards. I also saw the commercial for the Kiss radio on a Saturday afternoon. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon. I can remember the radio exploding on my television set.
Yep.
So when I put all that stuff together, it made this Kiss egg. And I was like, I have to crack this egg open and find out everything I can. And fortunately for me, I just turned 62 last week. I grew up with that first wave of Kiss. You know, I went to my local record store that was in my town, and I stood there and read all the magazines on the shelf, where you could find a dozen magazines with Kiss on the cover at one time, you know, and the Kiss Meets the Phantom magazine that came out. I think I'm the world's biggest owner of the biggest collection, and my guys like to rib me about it. The Robert Duncan paperback book, you know, all that stuff was what got inside my veins when I was 12, 13 years old. And I've never looked back, and I always like to joke, look how I turned out.
Nice.
So, question for Rich Kosak. So, when you first came up with the idea, you said you met the guy and you decided to record some guitar parts onto cassette and stuff like that. What was your experience as a musician before that? Were you messing around with covers and stuff before with your guitar, playing in just other kind of cover bands, just playing in your basement, or what was your experience before you got into all this?
Hold on, I'm going to go get a prop.
Okay.
Nice.
So one of those inflatable guitars.
Yeah.
No. So in 1980, 81, I had a high school band. We thought we were going to rule the world. And here's a photo of my high school band. We were called Lord Rock. And it was the cheesiest name. But that's me right there in the center of the photo with my Fender Telecaster Deluxe.
Right.
I am wearing my original Dynasty Tour shirt underneath a denim shirt that was tucked in. Yes, with my Chuck Taylor. So this is the only... I actually do have this whole performance on VHS.
Oh God!
From when I was a senior in high school when this photo was taken.
Okay.
And so I had this high school band for 2 years, and then after that I joined one of the bands that was consisted of a lot of the more popular musicians in my little town where I grew up. Okay. And the only reason that I got into this band was because I was the only guy that they knew who had a guitar. So I would walk a mile from my house to the keyboard player's house carrying my Gibson amp and my original 1979 Ibanez Paul Stanley PS10. And my arms would be killing me by the time I got there. And the keyboard player, and I'm going to quote, he loathed Kiss. That's his word. He hated Kiss. Why he ever let me into his band is beyond me. But I did have a coming to Jesus moment with him now that we're both older people. Right. And I told him how that scarred me, but it also inspired me. And so I like to think that when Rich and I and our bandmates are playing, you know, all around this country, and how grateful I am. I always think back to Bill Cook, and he's probably sitting on his couch picking lint out of his belly button, you know. and that's good retribution for me. So
sorry, real quick, Brian. It is the weirdest thing. I have so many musician buddies, and they're all like, "Kiss sucks, man." I'm like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm like, and it was such a breath of fresh air because, like I mentioned, our quote unquote new bass player. And he's a total rock and metal guy. And the other guys in my band are more like rock and roll. They're not really into metal like we are. Well, we get to talking at one point, and I said something about, I was like, man, I really, love a lot of the Kiss stuff. He's like, dude, I fucking love Kiss. And I went, thank God. And I hear my drummer behind us go, oh no. And I was like, you shut up. You like Imagine Dragons, bro. I don't want to hear from you. I've dealt with that. I've dealt with that for 8 years, man. And so it's just such a breath of fresh air. So like whenever we have a break at rehearsal or something, like I'll jump on the drums and he'll just be like, Love Gun. I'm like, okay, we'll do Love Gun. And like it'll be like King of the Nighttime World. Like, fuck you. So, it's pretty funny. And then, but he's like one of the only guys I know, like of my musician buddies. I've never understood it. I'm like, what is not to like about Kiss, man?
You got the wrong buddies, John.
I'm telling you.
The majority of my buddies love Kiss. They're all talking on this chat here.
Yeah, I've never understood it. I'm like, what's not to like, man? It's like, it's catchy, hard rock. Like and it looks cool as shit. Like what are you not getting?
Exactly.
Like, come on. So, sorry, Brian. I said to throw that in there, but
Oh
go ahead
no,
and ask your question.
that's
Sorry, man.
okay. So I kind of feel gypped. I'm not that much younger than you, Rich, like 5-year difference. But I was into Kiss, but I never got to see him with the makeup and stuff. And I only got to see him one time, and it was the Asylum tour. And I think I've talked to Rich about this before. And Wasp was opening, and it's like every song was 300 miles an hour, and it was just like there was no groove to it. It was just like there's hurry up and get through the songs. And I feel like I really kind of missed out. And I'm sure you've heard these criticisms before, and it's nothing against Eric Carr. And I know they purposely, I think, told him to play some stuff faster, but I was like, I don't know, it just left such a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm jealous for people that got to see them in their prime. So what was your actual first tour that you did see, Rich?
I saw them July 21st, 1979 on the Dynasty Tour.
Okay.
And I was in the 5th row at the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh. And I always tell people, if there was one day in my life that I could relive from the moment I woke up until the time I went to bed, it would be that day. I want to know what I wore, what I ate, how it smelled, the whole 9 yards, because that was the first time I ever saw a party joint. And so in the 4th row, these stoners that are sitting in front of us, I'm there with my childhood friend who I mentioned earlier, and this cigar joint goes by, and we're just getting contact high from this thing. We're 2 kids from the burbs, man. We don't know what's going on, but that night obviously changed my life, and even so much so, the opening band was a band called New England that I'm a huge fan of. That band. They lasted 3 albums, and then they broke up. But it was really cool to see them back then. And I can appreciate, Brian, what you're saying about the tempos, because I think in the 80s, Kiss was trying to compete with everybody else. Yeah. They were trying to compete with all the hair metal bands. Paul stopped playing guitar a lot of the time because he had, Bruce Kulick in the band, who was way beyond Paul's ability.
Right.
And Bruce could keep it going with Gene and Eric. So I remember seeing a lot of those tours as well. And yeah, they were done in like 75 minutes or 90 minutes, whatever it was. And you're standing there going, what? But conversely, a lot of the shows in the 70s, they were actually shorter than the shows in the 80s, if you can believe that. Peter was notorious for having some tempo problems as well, especially when he was upset with the other guys in the band for whatever reason.
That one show where he like purposely slowed down and down and down, like late in the tenure. Yep.
And I think even the Largo 79 show, Rich, when they do Firehouse, he comes in after the guitar solo, and the tempo is just like, you want to strangle the guy, because you can't play the riff where it's going to sound cool at that tempo.
Yeah.
So when they got rid of the makeup, and you guys can both attest to this, did that affect you? Were you like, what are you guys doing? As terms of how this, like the sound and stuff, did the sound change?
Nope.
Did that get you, or were you still just like, they're just doing something different and I still love it?
Go ahead, Rich.
It was a big thrill for me, just because I was finally seeing them. We saw all of those photos in the magazines where they'd be like this, or they'd be behind a napkin and all that stuff. And we finally getting to see them. I mean, that was exciting in and of itself. So no, it didn't bother me too much. I was just like, oh, wow, it's Kiss. So it's cool.
I feel the same way. For me, everything was Kiss. It wasn't like, I was just glad there was Kiss. There was something, I never, I came in around Destroyer, and then, you had Rock and Roll Over, Love Gun. And even when Dynasty came out, I was through the roof. I was coming unglued, man. And I found Unmasked. It was just Kiss. I was never one of those guys that, pissed on it because it wasn't, Rock and Roll Over, version 2.
I love that you guys say that, because as a Van Halen fan, the most exhausting argument in the world are, the David Lee Roth guys just relentlessly shitting on Sammy. I'm like, dude, it's all Van Halen. And I kind of actually look at Kiss, the catalog, almost like the Van Halen catalog. Like it's kind of varied. you've got some heavier stuff. You've got like kind of like a pop bubblegumish record, if you will, with like Unmasked. Dynasty was kind of, kind of like a product of the late 70s and disco and stuff. And then, the 80s, they got a little more musical, I think, in the guitarist because of Bruce Kulick, as you mentioned, Rich. And it's like, there's so much there. There's so much variance. You get all these different styles. So, that being said, obviously, you're playing in a tribute. So people are coming to hear Strutter and Detroit Rock City and Love Gun and God of Thunder and stuff. But like, how do you go about making the set list? Like, how much leeway do you have or do you take in terms of throwing in some of those deep cut bones for the diehards that are like, oh man, you got to play like, stuff out like, the B-sides off of Hotter Than Hell for me or something? Like, are you able to do that? Do you do that? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, we talk amongst ourselves. It'll usually filter down from me. I'm the hive and they're the bees. So everything filters down from me. And I'll make suggestions to the guys and say, what do you think about this, or this? So first of all, again, let's go back to the singing aspect of it. There's a lot of Kiss music that has, especially the 80s and 90s stuff, that have really, really high harmonies. Okay. Yeah. And truth be told, the guys in Mr. Speed, they don't have the vocal ability to sing that stuff. So Eric Singer told us one time, you have to play to your strengths. So we need to play the songs that work best for the 4 guys that are in Mr. Speed. And there are so many songs to choose from that we are all still happy, because if the band isn't happy playing the music, the fans aren't going to be happy listening to it. So as much as it is about them because they're paying the money to come and see us, it's just as important for the 4 of us to enjoy what we're doing. And I know when we played in Vegas back in November, we threw Watching You back into the set. And I know that Rich, that's his favorite Kiss song. So why wouldn't I want to give our drummer the opportunity to have that experience of playing that in front of the worldwide Kiss fan base that was at that show? So when we played in Vegas, we played 3 times, and we changed our set list each day by 4 songs. So instead of doing the same show day after day, we didn't do that because, first of all, we have the musical muscle to be able to change it up, and we believe enough in ourselves to make it work. And I'm sitting here telling you we hit a home run. We did She's So European in Vegas. Wow. When you do songs like that, how can you not make the connection with your crowd? You might get those couple of people who they didn't play mainline or whatever. Whatever. I'll deal with that one guy. But the majority of the people loved what we do on a consistent basis. And you're always going to have people that go, why didn't you play this and why didn't you play that? Because Kiss has such a huge catalog to choose from.
Sure. So I did a couple more questions for you guys on like the Kiss topic, and then I definitely want to get to some Ace Frehley, because we only got to talk about Ace a little bit when unfortunately he passed a few months ago. So we definitely wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it and talk about some of his music. But real quick, Rich, knowing that Watching You is your favorite Kiss song, I'm a huge Anthrax fan. Have you heard Anthrax's cover of Watching You?
Of course I have.
Dude, awesome. that is one of the best Kiss covers, especially with John Bush on vocals. It's so badass, man.
Oh yeah.
Stomp 442 production.
Yeah, and Charlie, they did a version of Parasite as well. That's
yes. Uh-huh. Wasn't that on the I'm the Man EP, I think? Wasn't it like back in 87, I want to say?
Yes, I think you're right.
Damn.
I think it's on Attack of the Killer Bees.
Yeah, that's right. It was Killer Bees, not I'm the Man. Thank you for correcting me. Yes. So I'm, like I say, I'm a big Kiss guy, but I really enjoy like the behind the scenes of how bands work and all that. So have you guys read all 4 of the biographies of each of the 4 original members?
Sadly, I would say I have not. No.
Okay. All right. I was just wondering because to me it's fantastic because my mom bought me the Gene Simmons one. And then after that, I was like, oh, cool. And then, Paul came out with his, I read his, and then I went to Ace, and then I did Peter. And it's like, I would recommend it to you guys because it's really fascinating because you get the same stories throughout, their 10 years in the band together, but from these 4 completely different perspectives. And it's really interesting because, they call Peter Chris, Ayatollah Chris Cola. And you can, and you hear in his book, the guy's bitching about everything. And you're like, yeah, that's what the other guys said. They said he complains about everything. So, and the other question I had, and this is one of my favorite movies. Have you guys seen Detroit Rock City? And if so, what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I've seen it. I thought it was great. Yeah,
have you?
That was a lot of fun.
Rich Kosek, have you seen that movie?
Have I seen it?
Yes.
I was in it.
What? No way! I love that movie. Where were you?
No, well, I'm in Cops Coliseum in Hamilton, Ontario for all the concert stuff, but you don't actually see me, but I'm there. I was there for the day of the filming. I was there for 7.5 hours. I remember, Peter throwing the drumstick, and Jam catching it. They must have done that a dozen times. It was pretty much a glorified autograph session for the most part. Because the band, Paul was up there, posing, oh, look how buff I am and everything, and then sign something and throw it back to the crowd. But yeah, so I love the movie too. I think it's, but I also love Kiss Meets the Phantom, and I've been to Magic Mountain in Los Angeles. Just because when I was, that was 14 years old when that came out. It was Kiss. I love that stuff. I know it sucks. It's not going to win an Oscar, but to me, it's amazing.
See, that was going to be my last question for you because I know you had mentioned Phantom of the Park, and I actually have not seen it. I keep looking for like a good copy to get. I wanted to and I know it's not great. And Ace's stunt double is a black guy if you look closely, and the overdubbed, the overdubbed dialogue and everything. And they originally Ace's dialogue was all because he was just being an idiot when they were talking to him. But so as a huge Star Wars nerd, I have a Star Wars podcast. There are people that defend the Star Wars holiday special. So I'm gonna give you the opportunity.
Don't do it.
I'm gonna give you the opportunity to defend Kiss Meets the Phantom. Since there are people that do defend, I'll give you a platform, and then we'll talk some Ace Frehley with you.
I loved it. I mean, I remember it was on late at night. When I was staying up later than my parents knew that I was, and I was flipping through stations, and that's when I first got to see it. Really, was as a rerun. But for me, those little clips, those little scenes where they're performing live on a stage, for me, that was the first I ever saw them, performing, moving around and not just in pictures and photos. So, I just loved the whole thing. Of course, I was young and everything. So, but I still love it to this day.
Rich Kosek,
I absolutely love it. I have to admit, I love the magazine that they released for it. As I said earlier, I think I own 17 copies of that magazine alone, because it's one of these nostalgic things that takes me back to when I was 14 years old. That thing came out on October 28th of 1978. And I sat there with my younger brother and again, my childhood friend, Chris, and we watched it on television. And it was just, my high school drummer at the time, or who became my high school drummer, recorded the entire movie on a cassette tape. And he gave me a copy. And I remember being a kid sitting there in my bedroom, just listening to the dialogue on a cassette without seeing it on TV, because that's how much of a geek I was for it. Because back then I was trying to absorb anything and everything I could that was Kiss. And I was fortunate enough to live through that as a preteen, and it was awesome. I know somebody who was actually at Magic Mountain when they filmed the concert scene.
Oh, wow.
Wow, really?
Yeah. His name's Raleigh DeVore, and he's a musician out in L.A. Yep.
That's cool as hell, man.
I was kind of like Rich in that I remember it well too. I was That was like one of the first times I was allowed to stay up late, because the big deal was it was a Saturday night and we had church in the morning, right? And I had just graduated to being able to dry my own hair after I take my bath on Saturday night. So I'm so paranoid that I'm gonna miss the start of it. And I took the hair dryer downstairs in front of the TV, and I'm like going like crazy,
Wow, how much hair did you have?
Well, not that much, but man, it was a big production drying your hair back in the 70s.
Oh, wow.
And so I was allowed to stay up late. I was allowed to dry my own hair. I was allowed to watch Kiss. And I remember like kind of being like at that age where I was like kind of scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, and then now you're watching, you're like, my machines, and you're like laughing your butt off. It's so funny, but it's so classic. Like, 'cause I just remember like the week before, the whole, like, I think almost every single night, Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park this Saturday or whatever. And then when you're watching the movie and they're like, the big show is tonight, Kiss, that famous dude that did all the commercials and the announcing. And it was just there's very few people like that demographic, that can relate to that. It's just like they were there watching it when it came. I mean, there was millions, but the those that are still around and remember it to a T like we do, was just, you had to be there, man. You had to experience it like that. It's hard to explain it to somebody.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for Kiss. I think that they're hugely embarrassed by the movie, but what they don't understand is that we as kids were sponges, and we were sucking up all of that stuff. And as they were 12, 14 years older than us. They were in this mega band, and they were creating something that all of us hold so near and dear to our hearts. And, I hear it with some of my other favorite bands too. These people that they bitch about certain eras of their career. But for us, growing up, man, like I'm a Star Wars geek too. I love that stuff. It was everything when I was, 13, 14 years old. And, Rich is into it too. So that was really one of the reasons why I kept him in the band, because he likes Star Wars.
That's the most important reason to keep him in the band.
Well, I thought he made another good point too about the first time getting to see him, and forget Kiss, and I don't mean forget him, but like there was that era of mid to late 70s to early 80s hard rock where like you just didn't know what these guys look like. You get pictures in Rolling Stone or whatever. They didn't show up on Entertainment Tonight. There was a real mystique to rock stars in general, and not just Kiss. Like nobody really knew what Judas Priest or Van Halen looked like unless they had the album where they were at the concert. They could be walking down the street and nobody would even necessarily know. They weren't showing up on TV. They weren't on the internet, obviously. There was a whole real mystique behind it. Like you had to go to that concert in order to to buy that album. You had to go to that concert in order to get that whole experience. And I'm not going to go off of this tangent like John and I always do, but that whole aspect of music is gone, and it's kind of sad in a way.
Yeah,
you know
you're
what
right.
else is,
Good point.
I'm sorry. You know what else is sad too, Brian? When I was in high school, you always knew who went to the concert the night before because they came in wearing their badge. They wore their shirt.
Yep.
And that was everything, because you breached that doorway of your school with such pride, wearing that shirt. And if you didn't go to the show and you saw somebody that saw Foreigner, or they saw Black Sabbath, or they saw somebody else, and you knew that they were there, and you're like, oh my God. It was like, when they walked by you. That is long gone from this, from our society. Now you got kids wearing band shirts, and they can't name you one song, which is just a crime.
I got a quick story about the concert T-shirt. Nobody went to me, but I was in sixth grade the day after a Rat concert. I had my Rat T-shirt on, and this eighth grader in the hallway, he shoulder checks me. He goes, "What do you know about Rat?" And I turn around and go, "I was at the concert last night. Where were you?" And his buddies just laughed.
Yep. Dude, I had a similar story. Like I was in high school. I was considered the nerdy kid, but I hung out with all the kids that were like, in the top 5% of the graduating class. Like I was in honors classes, but I was also the art kid that hung out with all the metalheads. And so I was listening to Van Halen and Metallica and Slayer and Scorpions and Kiss and all this stuff. And there was a couple of these muscular ass bullies that would try and check me. And, I'll never forget, we're before an English class, and this guy, and they said something about some pop band. And I just not thinking. I was just in a bad mood. I'm like, I'm gonna get my ass kicked for this, but I blurted out like, "Oh man, you listen to that trash?" He's like, "What the fuck do you listen to? Like Duran Duran?" I'm like, "Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, Metallica, Van Halen," and they're all like, "Nah, you?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, fuck off." Like,
No.
yeah, don't let the rapper fool you, dude. Like, so yeah, but so yeah, real quick, I did want to talk a little bit of Ace Frehley with you guys because obviously he passed and a few months ago, and that guy was so influential, and for me, and this is just my opinion, I feel like he kind of was the most influential member of Kiss because he's kind of known as, at least to me, the most rock and roll member of Kiss. You know what I mean? Like he was the drunk guy and the lead guitar player and the flashy guy. Like, but for you guys being enormous Kiss fans, unfortunately he is the first of the original main four guys to pass. So talk a little bit about his influence and what your guys' impressions of Ace and his music were.
Go ahead, Rich.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, when I was young and I was first getting into Kiss, being that Star Wars was popular and all that, Buck Rogers and Battlestar Galactica. I mean, I just, for whatever reason, I gravitated towards Ace. I wasn't really, obviously a serious drummer or anything yet at the time. I just liked Kiss, but yeah, Ace was my favorite member of the band. He was my favorite character. And then, for my 8th birthday, my sister Linda, she got me an 8-track of the 78 Soul album. She got me the Kiss puzzle, and she got me the Ace Frehley puzzle, the one where he's in front of the board with all the lights on it. And then she also got me the doll, the Mega doll. So she's passed away since then. So it's about that the memories that come along with some of these things when these guys pass away, because you think back to all of these things and what's meant to you throughout your life. So that was it was definitely a big blow to me whenever Ace passed. In addition to his solo work, I own all of it. It's all good stuff to me. I like it all. And then I could gravitate a little bit towards, Anton Fig. His drumming meant a lot to me as well. And, he played on a lot of that stuff with Ace, and including the 78 solo album. So just, all of it, Ace was definitely very influential for me, even though I'm not a guitar player. Ace always meant a lot to me.
Yeah. Rich, what about you, man?
How much time do you have? I can remember in 1978 getting Kiss Alive on vinyl for Christmas and putting my brother's 1960 something Strat over my shoulder. I couldn't play. I played air guitar in front of a mirror to let me go rock and roll, in our house growing up. And then, fast forward, Ace was always, until the solo albums came out, I was a universal Kiss fan. Then I became a Paul Stanley fan when the solo albums came out. But I'm lucky enough to say that I got the opportunity to play Shock Me with Ace in Myrtle Beach back in 2007.
What? No way.
Yeah, way. It's true.
That's awesome.
So I wasn't sure how I was going to handle the passing of an original Kiss member when it actually happened. I took Ace's passing much harder than I thought I was going to take it, because it's impacting me now. Answering your question, I can feel the emotion welling up inside of me. You're losing a friend. You're losing somebody that, when people were shitting down your throat in your teenage years and making fun of you in the hallways in school, and your family was telling you to stop listening to that, and your mom was telling you to cut your hair, and your ex-wife was telling you, to grow up. When Ace passed away, a part of me died with him. because that band saved my life. So it's interesting when I get to answer that question, because then I become like this real person like this, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. So I have a friend in Pittsburgh who is close personal friends of Ace's. I knew what was going on before the world knew what was going on. I wasn't allowed to say anything. I had to keep my mouth closed. It was very, very sad. I learned more when we went to Las Vegas and did the KISS Landlocked Vegas event, because I was able to see friends there who I normally don't get to see, who are on the inside, who shared their stories with me about Ace's passing. That, there's just things that I know now that the public probably doesn't even really know about how he died, and when he was dead before they even announced it to the world. It was very, very sad. So, yeah, fucking blue. So thanks for making me cry.
Sorry.
I appreciate you being, like you said, like human like that. Like, full disclosure, as I mentioned, I'm a Van Halen guy, and when Eddie Van Halen passed, I was the same way, and I think you nailed it. It's like, you're losing a friend, and it's almost like, it's something. It felt to me like it's something that's a constant. All of a sudden, isn't anymore. Like, I was, I saw Van Halen for the last time on their 2015 tour. And, I got buddies at work in the music industry, and they were telling me about this kitchen sink tour they were supposed to do in 2019. It's going to be Sammy and Dave. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I get to see Eddie Van Halen play again. And it never happened. And they didn't say anything about him being sick. And I just, it was, I was at work the day that he passed, October 6th of 2020. And we were in our busy season, so I had my phone in my desk, and it's like 4:30 in the afternoon. And I just, half hour from leaving, and I pulled up my phone to see if I missed anything important from my wife. And I had like 63 missed text messages. I went, what the fuck happened? And I opened up my message app, and I saw Eddie 4 times, and I went, oh God. And I immediately Googled Eddie Van Halen, and it was right there. And I just am sitting there at my desk at work, and I just started crying like I'd lost a member of my family. And so it's like you, man, like it's, these people mean so much to us, and they're such a formative part of, for me, it's a formative part of my personality in a way, because I don't know about you or you, Rich, but I wouldn't be on this show right now without Eddie Van Halen. Like I was 8 years old when I discovered music through Van Halen, and my life was going this way. And I heard Eddie play guitar and went this way. Yeah. I got into music. I got into playing. I got into singing. And Eddie was the guy. He was the reason. And it remained that way my entire life. And so, like, I really appreciate you telling that story, both you guys. And, Rich, I know, it's cool seeing emotion like that, because to me, that's what it's all about. It's fucking music, dude. And it's nice to get your guys' perspective, because that is like your favorite band, so.
Well, it's going to sound kind of weird, Rich, but like, if you didn't react the way you did, your band wouldn't sound the way it does, and the entity that you created. You know what I mean? Like, it would be ridiculous for you not to react that way. It shows, and it shows in what you guys have put together. You know what I mean? It shows in the passion that you have for this thing, and the passion that you had, just kind of like Ace had. You had a passion to entertain people. He had a passion for music, and you have the same thing, and you learned it from him. You learned it from those guys, and you've passed it on. And it makes sense that it would tear you up to that degree.
And personally speaking, I'm estranged from my actual biological family. In the last 2 years, I've lost both of my parents. And so the musicians that I grew up admiring and being inspired by are my family.
Yeah.
So more so than my real family.
Right.
My band is my family. So I'm happiest when I'm on the road. When I'm home, it's just chill time. But when I get to be on the road with the guys and the six of us are out there doing our thing, that's when I'm in my element. And that's why it's so important for me to give Rich and Shane and Mark the best of me and the best of something that I've sustained, for all these years, because I can't do what I do without them.
Sure.
But together we make a really, really cool thunder, that I think it resonates with a lot of fans around the world. And I say this too. I have a lot of friends that play in bands. I bet their band isn't known around the world, but if you ask somebody who Mr. Speed is, they're gonna know who we are.
Right.
I thought you said something interesting earlier when you had just started out on this journey. And I don't know, and I'm sure you realize this, but it was such a parallel to Kiss the band themselves. You said, well, there was no, you couldn't go buy an outfit. You know what I mean? You couldn't go get the makeup anywhere. And that's how Kiss, it was like you paralleled the same, like, yeah, they had to figure it out. And then you had to figure it out all over again, basically, kind of what they did. And it was like, you didn't have just this blueprint. I just thought it was interesting how the fact that you grew this thing so organically, and it's taken you this long, and I'm sure the more it grows and the fact that it grew that way, you appreciate it that much more, all that you, John and I always talk about like the wood shedding, when you think back of when you're wood shedding on songs or whatever, and you realize, man, this is kind of the best time, because it's the payoff for this is going to be amazing when it happens,
Okay. So to your point, and I really like to let Rich talk because he's got a story too, but you direct these questions that go back to the history of the band, and I'm the guy to answer that.
Yeah, we could just tell Rich to leave now. That's fine.
Yeah. I can tell you that I lived through the shows where we were paid $150 as a band.
Yeah.
And taxed on it.
Wow.
And I can tell you that my band now they earn the money that they take home with them because they work very, very hard. And when that trailer door hits the concrete, I don't have to say a word as the boss.
Right.
The people in Mr. Speed know what their job is. They do it, and they do it to the best of their ability. And that's what makes this band successful on multiple levels. As people, mainly.
Well, and that's something that I think, and this is just a general comment, but Brian, you can speak to this. And, Rich, you coming into the band in the last few years, I'm sure you probably saw this, pretty much right off the rip. But another thing people don't understand about being in a band, when you'll hear like people doing interviews, oh, it's like being in a marriage. And I'll hear people like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Like, oh, no, it very much is. But it's like being married to 3 or 4 other people. If you are not happy with the people you're jamming with, or you're not, you don't have that relationship, like you said, Rich, like it's difficult. I talked about, our new bass player, and the guy before him, God love him, he was a good friend for most of the time I was in the band. But he was miserable to be around the last couple of years, and he just held us back. And it was a pain in the ass. His girlfriend's causing drama at shows, and this new guy is like the polar opposite. And it's, like I said, I drive minimum 2 hours one way every time we play. And it's like, 30, 40 shows a year. And I keep doing it because the guys are my best friends. They're phenomenal musicians, and the band sounds great. I'm very proud of what those guys do. But Rich, you've spoken to it many times tonight. Being with good people is so important to the success of the music itself. And I don't think people really understand that when they go see bands. Like if you see, because you can see when a band's going through the motions, and you can see when a band is actually having a good time. And I've seen you guys, and you do the authentic Kiss experience, but I did take away the fact that you guys actually enjoy playing music together. And I think that that's something that people don't really understand,
Well, I know from my perspective, Rich drives me to be better. And I hope that what I am doing drives the three of them to be better, to give their best every time we go on stage, because none of this is guaranteed. We don't know how much longer we're going to all be doing this. We're very grateful to have the opportunities that we do have. We're not the guys playing in the local, Moe's bar down the corner anymore. We're playing really beautiful places that are paying, really big money to have us come in and represent KISS. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot on the line when Mr. Speed goes out there. So I know I take it very seriously. I read off of my bandmates and our crew. They all take it very seriously. And, it's always enjoyable after the show to be able to just come back to the lobby of the hotel and, eat some pretzels and have a couple beers, which I can tell you I didn't start doing until this version of the band became what it is. I never really wanted to, but I enjoy spending time with the people that are in Mr. Speed now because we are close and, they are my best friends. And what more could you want being in a band than playing your favorite band's music with people that you enjoy being around?
Yeah. I mean, what kept you going? I mean, you've said a couple times, like, this is like the closest, in terms of personal relationships within the band that it's been. This is recent lineup. So, and Rich, you've been in the band, what, 4 years now? I think you said earlier. Is it 4 years?
This is my 4th year. Yep.
Okay. So you had 28 years, Rich, of it not feeling like this for you. So what kept you going? Because I have to imagine there were times you're like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, there were. I could tell you, we could do a whole nother podcast on the shit that I've seen and the fucking assholes that have come through this band. But I prefer to talk about the people that are here now because they're the ones that are making it work and they're the ones that deserve my respect. So what kept me going was my heart. I'll stop Mr. Speed when I'm ready, not when some knucklehead's issues try to stop me. That's nice. That's why this works.
That's amazing. So, one more question, and then we can go as long as you guys want, but I always wonder with tribute bands, people always ask the same question. Well, do you get sick and tired of playing Detroit Rock City every night? Do you get sick and tired of playing, So my question is, how do you keep it fresh when you are having to just over and over and over and over again? Like, how do you do you need to keep it fresh? Or for you guys, is it, I love KISS so goddamn much, I still, it's like the first time I ever played it. Every night I play it.
Go ahead, Rich.
I mean, for me, I'm just appreciating that I'm playing, like you said, my favorite band's music. I'm getting to play this ginormous drum kit. I'm getting to do what I imagined in my bedroom when I was like 12 years old. I'm literally getting to do that. Each place that we play is a new and fresh place as far as I'm concerned. So I'm kind of like a kid in a candy store. I'm just looking around at the backstage and, at the lights, and I'm just kind of in awe because playing on this, on this level is, for the most part new to me. For the last 4 years, I did a little bit of it in the Metallica tribute I was in for a while, but not to this extent. But for me, all of that keeps it fresh, and I'm just excited every time I strike one of my drums. It's cool.
Well, Rich, you were in a little band called Fubar. I mean,
That's right.
I mean, you said stuff at this level. I mean, like, come on now, dude. I have another real quick question for Rich before he answers. How many actual KISS songs have you performed? Do you know the number? And how many can you guys play? You don't know? Okay.
No.
I think it's a shit ton.
A shit ton? Okay. I was figuring it was either that or a buttload. I was just curious.
Is that a metric shit ton or just a standard shit ton?
Yeah. And John, to go back to one of your previous comments about it being like a marriage, I'll just say that when I first met with Rich Kosak over a few beers and we just kind of talked on my way home, and I called my wife and she goes, how'd it go? And I said, well, he was as interested in you as he was in me because all of that is important. It all plays a part, right? He's looking for solid band mates, but also if there's someone, that they're attached to that is going to make things difficult, that can be a strain on the band as well. So it really is like a marriage, even extending beyond the band members.
Yeah, it's so difficult, man. I give you guys, I mean, Rich, I mean, you've kept the band together, you said 32 years, and I mean, it really is difficult. And man, it's awesome to hear that you guys actually have that relationship, because I'm kind of weird, and I don't know where you guys stand with this, but like being a huge fan of, like I said, behind the scenes where bands are coming from and stuff, it always takes away from it for me if I know that certain musicians are like assholes, or if they're faking it. Like you see Journey now, and that Jonathan Cain and Neil Sean just hate each other.
Right.
I mean, it's just, and so it's awesome knowing that you guys have that relationship, because I don't know how many bands can actually say that. So that's pretty badass, man. So,
it's interesting, guys, because I've had people in the band in the past where maybe they joined the band without a partner or a significant other, but somewhere along the way acquired one, and then everything changed. And then ultimately, I mean, I won't throw anybody under the bus, but there was an experience that I had where I pulled one band member aside at a gig. We were playing a beautiful venue in Missouri, and I said, "This experience and this person is driving a wedge between you and I." No, they're not. No, they're not. Nope. You're being a jerk and blah, blah, blah. And before you knew it, they were gone. So it's just, people don't like to hear the truth. And I've had a lot of different scenarios here, but John, going back to your question about how do we keep it fresh? You ever play a show in 7-inch platform shoes?
that was going to be another question. Yeah.
That will keep your ass humble every single time you step out onto that stage.
I do have to ask, what material are the heels of those boots made of? Because this is, God, at this point going back like 8 years, but a good friend of mine is a huge Kiss guy, and he had arranged this big Kiss like charity show, and he's like, all right, I need a jean. And I was like, well, I play bass, even though I'm a lefty. So he got from that Kiss costumes website, they donated 4 costumes, and I had to walk around in the jean thing. So I was walking around in them boots. I was like, Jesus Christ, how do they do that? Like, but they felt flimsy because, obviously they're not heavy duty. So what material are those heels made of to where they can withstand that?
Rich, tell them about your costume, and I'll go get another prop.
Okay. Yeah. So, as the drummer, I think what he's referring to is I don't have boots.
I was going to ask that. Yeah.
You're like, thank God, right?
Yeah. I had, for the first few years, I had these kind of leather things that zipped down over my calf and kind of looked sort of like a boot. We've since not been using those anymore, but none of the Kiss drummers played shows in boots. They always played in, tennis shoes or something comfortable, because that would be crazy. They usually just wore those just for the sake of photo shoots and things like that.
Okay, so here's your prop.
Wow.
Oh my God.
So how bad do your feet hurt by the end of the night? Do I even want to?
No,
Can we get the number of your podiatrist?
The feet do not hurt one bit. It's the low back.
The back, yeah, okay.
That is suffering. Towards so I'll be transparent here about what happened with our last 2 shows. We came back, we played in Michigan in October, then we went to Vegas for 3 shows, did that big Kiss thing out there. Then we came home and played 2 shows in Strongsville, Ohio, Friday, Saturday night. Well, the week prior to that, I wrenched my back here at home, doing something simple. So leading up to those shows, I had 2 chiropractic adjustments, 2 acupuncture sessions, and 2 massages just to get through those 2 shows that weekend. Then when those shows were over, I missed 2 straight months of work because my back completely shit the bed. And I know that Rich was battling a back injury that he suffered the second of the 2 nights that we did here to end our year last year. So, performing, people want to criticize us and tell us that we're not energetic enough, or we don't move like Kiss, or this, that, and the other thing. I'll tell you what, you put these on for 32 years and you tell me how you do it. Yeah. Show me how you do it. Okay. I'm not complaining about my job. I'm doing it to the best of my ability. I'm 62 years old. When you saw Paul Stanley doing all that stuff, he was 27. Right. Okay. Yep. There's a real big difference between the two. And again, anytime somebody wants to strap a 10-pound guitar over your back and put on 7-inch platform shoes and play for 2 hours for 32 years, then you can come and tell me how to do it. Until then, keep your fucking mouth shut.
Well, and it's not like they're doing backflips up there anyway.
They're not. Nobody in a Kiss tribute band anywhere on planet Earth is doing any of the acrobatics that Paul Stanley did or Gene did in the 70s. They're just not doing it because it's really, really scary. Okay, I'll be honest with you. It's really scary to put these things on, and it takes nothing to knock you off balance. So, yeah, we go through a lot more than just a bunch of guys standing on stage, no disrespect, playing your instruments in sneakers or what have you.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's disrespectful at all. I mean, like you said, if you get bumped, you're going down, and good luck getting back up.
Or if the stage isn't even, or if they make a wooden stage that is horizontal slats, you get your heel caught in that. But you can't let the fans know that that's a problem. You have to give them everything you got.
Well, and that's part of the show too. Like Kiss doesn't wipe out. Kiss doesn't bump into each other and do shots and drink beers. That's
right.
Yeah, it's a very professional type of thing,
Yeah, or leave Gatorade bottles on the drum riser, or none of that cool stuff.
Get those off my riser.
or here's my favorite one. This is my all-time favorite one. Leaving the Snark tuner on the headstock. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or
I love that one.
Here's one for me. Putting the iPhone or the iPad on the mic stand.
Oh yes,
dude.
Yes. Hey, can I tell you guys something? This is just really funny. This is me slinging a little bit of mud. So there's a new venue in Wadsworth. You've probably heard of it.
Celestia.
Yeah. Yep. Well, they're bringing in another Kiss tribute band.
I just saw that today. Yes.
Did you see that they're using a photo of Kiss as the promotion for the show?
No, are they really?
Oh, yes, they are. Yeah. And furthermore, the band that's coming, they use the iPads on the mic stands.
No, don't tell
me
that.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. And our band was having a good laugh about this last Friday in a text because we won't say what we want to say, but come on now.
Yeah, that's sacrilege for Kiss. You Kiss cannot.
Well, but you know what? I'll Dress to Kill. There it is. Okay, Dress to Kill. They're called. They're Nashville's.
Have you seen the photo?
Have you
seen their band photo?
I'm pulling it up. They don't have the actual. So this is just what the local place is using. So it's not the. Oh, I gotta find that. Man, see, Brian, for a Kiss tribute band, horrible. Honestly, for me, for any band, it's terrible, man.
I miss the old days of the mic. Remember the music stand with the notebooks? That was the worst with the full band with the notebook up there.
You know what I do that? You know when I do that, Brian, is if I'm doing an acoustic show.
Yeah,
because your background noise, you take requests. Right. My band, I'm definitely not on your guys' level. But I will print out cheat notes and I put them on the stage flat, and I'll walk around and kind of look down here and there, but I'm not staring at something oh my God.
By the way, that for me, I've told my wife that, if I get to the point where I'm relying on words on a screen to get through a song, kick me in the balls and sell my gear. Because the fans do not deserve that. They deserve better.
Well, I will tell you, as you were talking and I was asking you about the tour, I did look up dates, and you guys are playing in Norton, Ohio on July 17th, which is about 12 minutes from my house, because I live like 3 minutes from the Wadsworth place where this other band's playing. So I actually do not have a show myself that night. It's a Friday, and I requested off on the band calendar, and I emailed my mom. And so my mom and I are going to come out to the show in Norton, Ohio on July 17th. We'll buy tickets, and Rich, I'll have to have Brian get a hold of you. If at some point during the evening I could get a picture of my mom with you guys all in the Kiss gear, that would be just an absolute highlight, man. My mom would shit her pants.
We will accommodate you and your mom before the show to get a photo with the whole band.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Anything to get his mom to stop texting me to take her to that show. No, I do want to say, though, listening live to the show, playing tomorrow night at that same Celestia Theater is my good buddy Chris Stafford. The U2 tribute band One is going to be playing there tomorrow. So anybody in the Wadsworth area, get out there. And then what's the date you guys are there?
Norton. They're actually in Norton at the City of Norton Summer Concert Series on Friday, July 7th.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But Norton's only 12 minutes down the road from Wadsworth, man. And it's rural driving, and it's awesome.
Yeah, that's like 10 minutes from Jill's parents' house. So we're going to have to check that out for sure.
Yeah, there's Rich, I'll have to get your contact information from Brian, because as long as you guys are going to be out there, there's a couple little tiny like podunk places that have really excellent food. So if you guys are looking for a place to grab a beer or something, or if you need something to eat, I'm sure you get catering and all that. But if not, there's a couple awesome places.
Hey, John, let me. I just want to rewind. There's no beer in Mr. Speed.
What about after the show?
Oh, after the show?
After, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, then maybe that might work. But while you're wearing these,
well, of course,
there's no drinking. We don't drink on show days.
But Rich, after the show, I know you might partake of some tequila.
Yes.
Vodka and orange juice.
Yes.
All right.
Maybe some cold gin.
I do have one serious question for you guys. Would you both be so willing and kind to come back another episode and do some deep dive into some actual Ace and Kiss tunes? Would that be something you guys would be up for? Or has this whole experience completely been like absolutely no way whatsoever?
Fuck those guys. They're terrible. I'm
down.
Yeah.
Okay, because I want to give that.
We were going to cram the Ace thing in, and this would be it. But I'll come back.
Yeah, no, because I want to give it the. You know what? I want to give it the justice it deserves, and seeing how emotional you are about the Ace stuff, and I know you want to give it the justice it deserves too. So I really love to do some deep dive, and we'll email and get a better plan for that whole show. But it would be great to have you guys come in and just strictly just song by song talk about however we're going to break this down. I think it would be awesome. You guys have been amazing.
Yeah. Cool. Got to thank you guys for coming on. I'm going to ask one last question. It is an Ace related question, and then we will I'll put you guys in the green room. We'll talk for a second, after we get off air, if you don't mind. So one last question is Ace related. I am a huge fan of this record, and I for some reason I didn't hear a bunch of people really getting into it for some reason. I think that Ace's last album, 10,000 Volts, is fucking awesome. Do you guys like that record? For me, maybe this is sacrilege, it's my favorite of his solo albums.
Oh.
Well, yeah, there's sacrilege, and then there's that, right, Rich?
Look, I know everyone's going to talk about, Frehley's Comet and, the 78 and all that kind of stuff, but man. Okay, there you go. Okay.
Yeah,
no,
Rich had. No, John, to answer your question from my perspective, I don't even own it. I stopped buying all the Ace stuff because there was so much coming out in like a flurry. And truth be told, the first Frehley's Comet album for me is just killer from start to finish.
Yeah.
You know, Into the Night and Something Moved. And yeah, that one that Rich is holding up right there.
Yeah.
That one, it's just killer. And obviously the 78 solo, you know, I was so ready with my 5 songs that you guys wanted us to talk about.
I've got mine.
I'll restrain myself and I'll come back at a later time and we'll chat about it again, but I'll be ready.
All right.
But yeah, no. So I don't own that stuff. Like I don't even know if I have Anomaly. And then there was like Origins 1 through 42 and
the cover
stuff.
records. Yeah.
Yeah. It got really silly there for a minute. Because I mean, yeah, it's just, so no, I don't have that stuff.
Interesting. Okay. So Rich, obviously you're 78 and Frehley's Comet, but what do you think about 10,000 volts?
I thought it was better than the Anomaly records, but I wouldn't call it my favorite. But I thought it was good.
Okay. All right. See now we got a debate going when you guys come back on. So you know,
I don't know how much of a debate's going to be.
And I just want to interject one thing about the boots. Because of the rhythm section narrative, as Rich likes to call it. I can attest to the fact that our bass player, Shane, he does definitely have foot problems in those boots. He gets blisters. He wraps every one of his toes, even his little pinky, in new skin or some kind of rubbery stuff, just to try to get through a show. And when we do like 2 or 3 in a row, that dude's hurting because you know he doesn't have any choice. He can't just stand still. So.
Oh my God!
I wanted to make sure that I threw that out for Shane.
Yeah. So let me add on to that what Rich is talking about, because there are people in this world that have costume companies that claim that they're the second coming of Kiss. Okay, but what they are not are shoe cobblers. Okay, so they might be able to make a reasonable facsimile of a costume that looks really, really good, but they are not shoe cobblers. I'm going to tell you that I flew to Los Angeles 9 years ago, and I had a mold made of my foot and my calf. So the only person on planet Earth that can wear these boots is me. And these boots cost $3,000. Okay.
Jesus.
So what you're buying from those costume companies are a generalized, hope it fits, you don't break your ankle boot. Okay. So buyer beware when you buy that sort of thing. The people that are making them are not shoe cobblers. They might be costume makers, but they're not shoe cobblers. And there's a real big difference in your health and safety.
Yeah, like I say, when I was wearing them jean boots and I was trying to play a couple songs, and I tried to do the, you know, how he does like the kind of like the, like he brings his knees up. He does like kind of like that, the monster walk. Holy shit, man. Good. Like, oh my God. Oh, there's your boy Shane. Like, yeah,
there he is. Yep.
I was trying to do that, and I was like, oh my God. Like, I really felt like you said, broken ankle. Like, because it's not like if you wipe out it with a tennis shoe, oh, I might get a little sprain. No, you've got this much room, like something's snapping in there, man. Like, and you can tell when you're in those things. So, yeah, but wow, man, guys, thank you so very much for coming on. So real quick, you know, one last time, tell everybody about the band, the 26 tour, and do all your promos and plugs and stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll do this because I know Rich will probably fumble over it.
Thank you.
Go to our website, which is www.mrspeedonline.com. From there, you can connect to all of the platforms. We've got them all. And our tour, the No Apologies tour for 2026, is going to start on March 21st in Rancho Mirage, California at the Agua Caliente Casino. And whenever we can secure a date that works for us and the buyer, we are going to come to a town near you. You can also visit our online store at www.mrspeedonline.com and custom order any swag that you want. Mainly things that we can't even take on the road with us because we don't have enough room in the van to do it. So there you go.
That is awesome. All right, guys. Well, like I say, thank you so very much for coming on. We'll get in touch, and we'll definitely do this again. We got to dig into some Ace, and I'll let you guys crap on me for my love of 10,000 volts. And I mean, if you can't get into a song like "Constantly Cute," I don't know, I don't think you have a pulse. So,
just give me Fractured Mirror and I'll be good.
I love it, man.
Which
All right,
one?
so
Fractured Mirror 1, 2, 4, 7.
I was gonna say, yeah. There you go. So, all right, man. Well, I'll put you guys in the green room. We'll talk in a second. And thanks once again, Rich and Rich from Mr. Speed, man. Thank you guys so very much.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. All right, so there goes Rich and Rich, otherwise known as Paul and Eric from Mr. Speed. That was great. That was an awesome idea that you had to have those guys on. I get it. We're a Dream Theater podcast, very prog, but you and I are both huge rock fans and, of course, huge Kiss fans. So, it's awesome to talk Kiss, but even better, as I mentioned, to talk a little bit of shop and just, hear what it takes to make a band on that level operate and to learn the music and all the hard work that goes into it, man. So thank you very much for setting that up, man.
Yeah, man, that was a lot of fun. It couldn't have gone any better. Like, I've known Rich for, gosh, probably going on close to 20 years now. Great guy, incredible drummer. And when he got this opportunity, I couldn't think of anybody who deserved it more. And I finally got to go see him with the band. I think it was almost about a year and a half ago up here at the Geauga Theater, and they were just amazing, because it's one of those really old theaters. It's not huge, so it's like, it just feels like a super intimate concert, but it was still perfect size. They could do all their stuff and everything, and
yeah,
sounded great. And like, we're not blowing smoke up your ass. If they are in your area, you absolutely go see them. You're not going to be disappointed. They'll play all the great hits and plenty of deep cuts, and they all sound and look, and it just feels like you're at a Kiss concert.
Look at Tim. Says, you guys do a great job. This show's awesome. Brian, what the fuck? Remind me every cast. Love it. Thank you very much for tuning in, Tim. Appreciate you, man. Dan Hayes 9297 says, first ever podcast I've watched. Loved it. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Dan. Thanks for tuning in, man. We've this is our 120th episode, so if you like it, you can go back on YouTube and watch literally every single show we've ever done. So
are we still being pulled down from Spotify? Are we working on that, or how do we?
I did a test.
Okay.
With I found some video game music, Dream Theater music done in Nintendo style.
Oh, nice.
And I did that as a bed for a message that said, fuck you, Spotify, for pulling us. And it has not been pulled, so officially I can use that music. So I'm going to do a new intro.
Oh, nice.
And get all those episodes back up. So yeah, we'll be up and running doing that. So
awesome.
real quick, I do have to say, my quick Mr. Speed story will jump out. So they were actually the first tribute band I ever saw. And I saw them at Slim and Chubby's in Strongsville. And a buddy of mine was like, dude, there's a Kiss band playing like in Strongsville. You want to go? And Strongsville's my hometown. I grew up like not even 5 minutes up the road from where they were playing. It's on Prospect. I grew up on Prospect Road down the other side. And I was like, yeah, I've heard that there's bands that do this. Cool, whatever. And I wasn't I just thought it was guys going to play some Kiss tunes. I was like, yeah, I'll go listen to some Kiss tunes. Fuck yeah. But I get there and there's this giant PA and the big Kiss, the light up sign. I was like, what the fuck is this? And they came out. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. So it was a really good time. And so I've seen them many times over the years, and it was, they basically, popped my cherry for tribute bands, and actually kind of, they were my first experience with it, and just do a fantastic job. And that was, like I said, like 15 years ago, and they just keep getting better and better. So yeah, absolutely phenomenal band. To what Brian said, guys, if you have a chance to go see them on their No Apologies tour coming up here in 2026, make sure to go out and check that out. They're absolutely fabulous. And as you guys can see, super, super nice guys. So go out and support them. So once again, guys, thank you very much for tuning into another episode of Talking Into Infinity, a Dream Theater centric podcast. We are live every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and what the hell's the other one that we're on? Oh, my personal Facebook page. So all of my buddies can watch me be an internet guy. We are not going to be doing a podcast in 2 weeks though, Brian. It'll be Thursday, February 26th. We have to get back on our every 2 week schedule. So it'll be actually Thursday, March 5th. And the reason we're not doing February 26th, more importantly than our schedule, is I will be out to dinner with my family because Thursday, February 26th is my 50th birthday. So, but keep an eye on our channel because there's a good chance that I will have gone out for drinks with my younger brother after family dinner, and I might just get online and start talking about music. I might text Brian, like, hey, get online, man. I'm drunk. Let's talk about tunes.
Who knows what we got planned? You have no
Exactly.
idea.
Yeah, it's my birthday, man. So we're gonna do the following week. So our next show is Thursday, March 5th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Brian, once again, one more time, thank you so much for hooking us up with the guys in Mr. Speed. One more time, thank you to Rich Kosak and Rich Hattery for coming on. Appreciate them. Go check them out. And until next time, guys, I am your host, John. He is Brian. And until next time, guys. Oh, one more thing. Kale McLeish, we love you, and we hope you have had the most fan-fucking-tastic time seeing Dream Theater twice in 3 days. You deserve it, man. You are the biggest fan they have. So, guys, until next time, Thursday, March 5th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, as always, Carpe Diem.